trucks built to serve.
Back here with Chris Broussard, time for our rewarding performance, sponsored by Capital One Venture Card. What's in your wallet? 76ers All-Star Joel Embiid is 6 seasons into the process, and with 0 titles on his resume, guess the guy's still processing. But Embiid is fired up for the NBA restart. He said, quote, "I have something to prove. It's going to be my time." But Broussard, let's speculate and say this isn't actually his time. What's the next step for the Sixers if the team does have an early exit from these playoffs?
Here's what I'd do if I'm Elton Brand running the Sixers. If they go out early, I fire Brett Brown as head coach. I bring in a coach that I believe can maximize Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons together. I think Mark Jackson would be a great choice. He obviously hadn't been able to get a job anywhere for some reason, but he'd be my guy. But whatever the case, bring in a coach, give him a chance to maximize those 2 players together. I would do that before I gave up on them completely, because having Embiid gives you something virtually no other team in the league has, which is a dominant low post scorer. So that's a nice thing to keep. You don't just throw that out before giving it a chance to work. So if it doesn't work under the new coach, then I trade one of my stars, and I would lean toward Embiid. I would get rid of him, build around Ben Simmons the way Milwaukee's built around Giannis Antetokounmpo, which is let Simmons be kind of a point center, point power forward, and put a bunch of shooters around him, because Simmons is a tremendous playmaker, maybe one of the best in the league for sure, and he can score down low and he can score going downhill. So that would be my long-term plan for Philadelphia if they go out early.
All right, I agree with the very first part of it. The second part surprises me a lot, Broussard. Listen, if they go out early, Brett Brown's got to go. So that part we agree on. If they go out early, I would consider making a big trade this summer, not next summer. But there is no way it would be Embiid that I'm trading. To me, Embiid has league MVP potential, and he is a bit of a one-off in today's NBA because he is an old school back to the basket center. I know he can go out and shoot the 3. He probably shouldn't shoot as many as he has, but he is a matchup nightmare for the majority of teams in this league. And we saw last year where he was seemingly going to realize his full potential of being a 27, 12, and 3 a game guy. Like that type of player I would not move on from when I could move on from a player who, if I showed you film from him his rookie year or this year, it'd be indecipherable. So what I want to ask you, Broussard, is this. 2 fake trades. Give me a grade or thoughts on each of them. Ben Simmons, Bradley Beal. The Wizards can have a guy like Simmons to kind of play maybe small ball center, which maybe he should be playing anyway. When John Wall gets back, the Sixers get much needed spacing and shooting. And one other one, and this one is a little more off the wall, but after the Warriors crap out on trying to get Giannis this summer, and they realize Steph's 32, going to be 33 next year, Draymond's getting older. What about Klay Thompson coming off his ACL for Ben Simmons? What about those 2 trades? Tell me your thoughts on both of them. And because I think for Philly, I think Philly's better in both regards. I don't know if you think the Wizards or the Warriors would consider either one.
I agree. It works for Philly, but if I'm the Wizards, I'm not doing that deal because I don't think Ben Simmons and John Wall would be very good together. And you know Wall's got that long-term contract, so he's likely not going anywhere. So they both need the ball in their hands. We know Simmons can't shoot. I don't like that combination. As far as Golden State, yeah, I mean, if you can put Klay Thompson with Joel Embiid, by all means do it. But if you're Golden State, why? The guy I'm trying to get rid of for Ben Simmons, if I'm the Warriors, is Draymond Green. Now, obviously, he's not as attractive on the market as Klay is, but Ben Simmons would be like a better version of Draymond Green. Can defend virtually every position. Is an even better playmaker than Draymond, who is a very good playmaker himself. Can't shoot it as well, which is saying a lot because Draymond's not a great shooter, but still he could do everything else and he could be the playmaker for Klay and Steph. So I don't like that I don't think Golden State would do Klay for Simmons. But I think what you're missing, Nick, is Simmons without Embiid is a monster. Now, I know I hate that Simmons isn't always aggressive, but when Embiid is not there and that lane is wide open, Simmons plays downhill, and we've seen that he can be a dominant player in that regard. You put shooters around him, and then I think he's special. And you can also play him down on the block because he can score inside. So I think you could really play him like Milwaukee plays Giannis and have great success that way.
I mean, I'll give you a third option, Jenna. Brett Brown stays, Embiid stays, Simmons stays, and the front office looks in the mirror and says, hey, have we done enough to surround our two superstars with the players that they need? And I think they would say no. They don't have the great shooters around them that they need. And I know this all falls on Simmons and Embiid, and they're supposed to figure it out, and Brett Brown needs to figure it out. It's always their fault. I think it's the front office deserves more blame than they take, and it's all been on the players and Brett Brown, but they haven't surrounded those guys with the players that they need to have them succeed.
I don't know, Kevin. I feel like if you're going to ask anyone, what's the one reason why the Sixers aren't going to make it, it's always chemistry. It's been chemistry for the last 2 years. It's been Simmons plays better without Embiid. Embiid plays better without Simmons. But together, they can't seem to make it work somehow. So let's just assume the Sixers are in it. They bring their A game, which every couple of games they bring their A game. Nick, I'll toss it to you. How far can this team go in the playoffs?
Well, listen, I do think we should remind the audience they were one bounced around the rim shot away in a Game 7 at the buzzer by Kawhi from maybe going to the finals last year. I mean, now I think Milwaukee would have beaten them, but Milwaukee looked like they were going to beat everyone, and then something happened in that double overtime of Game 3 when they were up 2-0 on Toronto, and they fell apart after. Maybe that would have. So I don't think that Philly is a team that's drawing dead. And so if Philly does bring their A game, Broussard, and if Milwaukee does have some of the similar struggles in the postseason they had last year, because let's be fair here, while we all criticize Brett Brown, I think accurately, Mike Budenholzer has had his own share of struggles in the postseason. So let's just create a scenario where Philly comes out of the East, which I think was a lot of people's pick before the season began. I don't think a lot of people have it now. If they come out of the East, and on the other side of the bracket is anyone but the Lakers, if they come out of the East against the Clippers do not have the size to deal with Embiid. If they come out of the East and the Rockets are there, and the Rockets are trying their small ball stuff, they definitely don't have the size to deal with Embiid, and Embiid that would have had to have been playing the best basketball of his career to get him there. So I wouldn't place a bet on this at anything worse than 50-1 odds, but what's their ceiling? Their ceiling is they win the championship. If somebody bounces the Lakers, they could beat whomever comes out of the West if they can get it together this postseason, Chris.
First of all, I'm still a bit dizzy from that Wilds take. I mean, what? They got the best roster in the Eastern Conference on paper, all right? Tobias Harris is your third option. No, that. And then, Nick, the Kawhi Leonard hate continues.
Oh, my God.
Something happened. Something mysterious out of nowhere. We couldn't tell what it was. It was Kawhi. It was Kawhi defending Giannis. That's what it was, Nick.
Oh, my God.
That's why they beat him in 4 straight games. Now, finally, Jen, I had to get that off my chest. To answer the question, Nick is right, finally, in that, look, their ceiling, they could get to the finals. I wouldn't give them the championship, but they could get to the finals. I was one of those people that picked them to win the East in the preseason. Like you said, I don't have them now. They are the best team on paper in the East. What concerns me about them is their lack of maturity. Simple as that. Joel Embiid, I don't know what he's going to look like once we start playing games again. I have visions of him eating donuts, dozens of donuts all day, dozens of hamburgers all day. I have no idea what kind of shape he'll be in when he comes back. I know he's been playing individual workouts for the past several weeks, but he could get hurt or just not be in very good shape and play that well. And then, Nick, to your point, here's the point. If they were to get to the finals against, say, the Clippers or the Rockets, as you said, here's the problem with Philly. Of course, neither of those teams can deal with Embiid on the block, but he's not going to be on the block all the time. He's as you said earlier, he's wandering around the three-point line like he's a 6'3" 2 guard. That's part of the problem in Philly. And some of that is necessitated by Ben Simmons' lack of shooting ability, because you got to put Ben down low so that the other team will guard him. So you're not playing 4-on-5. So Philly's got some issues. Their immaturity is reflected in their poor road record, 10-24, worst of any team currently in the playoffs. So on paper, yeah, they could get to the finals. Realistically, they probably go out in the second round.
And by the way, the East Wild's going to be real interesting, because if the bracket stays true to form, you're going to have a real star in this league, Joel Embiid. His team is the 6th seed against a maybe soon-to-be one-day star in this league, your guy Jason Tatum. And I think there'll be people that say, if Milwaukee doesn't make it, the winner of that series, I think people will Wilds jump over Toronto and jump over Miami and certainly Indiana and say the winner of Celtics-Sixers poses the biggest threat to Milwaukee this year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Sixers went 3-1 against the Celtics. The question is, for the Sixers, are they...